Hello, my name is Kay Eichler. I'm with the Early Childhood team, and thank you for joining this webinar. Today we'll discuss the request for applications that the department released on August 31st. This is a request for applications for community network pilots. So, a bit of background. Because too few children were ready for kindergarten, Louisiana's legislature passed Act 3 in 2012, creating Louisiana's Early Childhood Care and Education Network. Today, all publicly funded providers in the state are partners in community networks. All are evaluated using the same standard for quality. All are working to make enrollment a streamlined process for the economically disadvantaged families in their community. Program quality has begun to improve. Parents have better information to make placement decisions. But we still have challenges. Though there is greater coordination and program quality has improved, all families that need early childhood care and education do not have access to quality options. There aren't enough seats. Of the seats that do exist, too few are high quality. Lead agencies have not been positioned to drive community-wide growth in access or quality. Lead agencies are funded only to conduct network administration activities, coordinate observations, and coordinate enrollment. Improvement is the responsibility of individual programs, not strategically managed across the community. And access is driven by the availability of state and federal funds that do not carry incentive for local match. Without local governance and authority, funds do not yield maximum potential. So what is the state's approach to addressing these challenges? This past summer, Louisiana's legislature amended Act 3 during the 2018 regular legislative session. The Board of Elementary and Secondary Education is now authorized to use available public and private funds for pilots that will implement new strategies to increase access and improve the quality of early childhood care and education programs. These pilots will partner with the state and receive a startup investment for improving quality and expanding access. They'll also have the flexibility of greater local authority and be prioritized to receive additional seats that may come available. Lessons learned from these pilots will inform and influence policy. So let's talk about what the pilots are expected to accomplish. So what the state seeks to do is empower local data-based planning and decision-making by supporting local authority. So we want these pilots to have a local governing structure for shared decision-making that has bylaws and that adheres to public meeting requirements. We also want these pilots to have a formal community network brand, if not already in place. Pilots will be expected to have a system to track access demand and provider capacity by age and locale. They'll be expected to make information about quality providers with available seats easily accessible by the public. They will have to maintain a strategic plan for access and improvement that A, aligns the use of all available public and private funding for early childhood with their community's needs, and B, sustains existing quality providers, improves low-quality providers, and recruits new providers. Pilots will assign publicly funded seats to providers using a strategic plan that meets the access needs of families and supports quality for children while maintaining the viability of private providers, and demonstrates significant improvement in quality across sites. So to summarize, a local governing structure, track access demand and provider capacity, make this information available to the public, maintain a strategic plan for access and improvement, assign publicly funded seats, and demonstrate significant improvement in quality across all sites. So successful pilots must be ready to collect and examine multiple types of information to anchor strategic plans and decisions. Community network pilots are expected to identify and use the following information: current demand for access, available capacity for each provider, sites and classrooms where quality improvement is needed, where and how unmet access demand is impacting business and industry, and all public and private funding streams that can be used to improve quality and increase access. So what will the state contribute to the pilots? So overall, I want to make it clear that the state will provide assistance through the application process and beyond in the form of coaching and resources. We will support communities to put in place a local collaborative governing structure for shared decision-making. We will provide guidance to develop clear and actionable plans to increase access and improve the quality of care and education. We will provide each pilot up to $100,000 of funding per year for 2 years to implement improvement plans. We'll also provide the option to apply a 30% match to use all or a portion of these funds for new birth to 5 seats. Meaning if a pilot wants to use half of the money requested for local seats, as long as they can generate a 30% match, they'll be able to do that. The state will prioritize pilots for both existing and innovative funding opportunities that will increase the number of economically disadvantaged children served by their community network. The state will give approved pilots the authority to distribute improvement resources across programs in their community. We will give approved pilots the authority to locate publicly funded seats within the community network. The state will assist pilots with closely tracking and analyzing accountability system data for improvement trends. And we will revise policy to align with supporting pilot autonomy. That includes seeking waivers of any state regulations that prevent pilots from maximizing efforts and funds. We'll also provide pilots with state and national supports that are available. So what is the project period? And what is the funding? This pilot program will operate from mid-October 2018 through June 2020. Applicants must commit to the entire project period that will span 2 fiscal years, fiscal year 2018-2019 and fiscal year 2019-2020. Successful applicants will be funded up to $100,000 per year to support the plans and budgets submitted with their application. The state will prioritize pilots for additional seats that may be available for school year 2019-2020. Who is eligible? All currently established early childhood community networks are eligible. Communities may also collaborate and apply as a multi-community access and improvement consortium. So how would that work? Suppose 2 community lead agencies got together and wanted to apply as such a consortium. They would each retain their lead agency status and submit an application that's centered around the goals of this pilot. Additionally, the department will work to find flexibility for any applicant that proposes to implement a new creative partnership with a solid rationale. Well, what do we mean by that? There are several communities in the state that have very active and willing private funders or active and willing nonprofit funders. In the instance where a current community network wanted to partner with local funders, they would have the opportunity to do that by having the state work with them to develop this partnership. The selection process. So complete applications that demonstrate readiness for a local governing structure, along with complete plans and budgets to improve access and quality, are required. So 3 things there: plans for the governing structure, plans for improving access and quality, along with budgets. And you'll see there are 2 application deadlines. So initial applications must be submitted no later than 4:30 on October 8th. Final revised applications must be submitted no later than 4:30 on November 12th. Why do we have 2 application timelines? That is because the state anticipates working with communities that are determined to do this project by helping you refine your applications, your plans, and your budgets. So unlike previous pilots where we literally asked communities to fly the airplane while they were building it, we really need your best designs before we get started. So the initial application deadline is for you to submit your best complete application. The state will review it and work with you to refine that application. The final application would be due on November 12th. Let's talk for a minute about the application components. So plans, there are 4 separate plans that are talked about. And if you've had time to review the application template, you will see that each of these components contain several guiding questions to help you with each of these plans. So the plan for local governing structure means the community network's best ideas for developing a local governing structure for shared decision making that includes all program partner types and key community stakeholders. So while some of you do have governing structures right now that have leadership committees and maybe even additional working committees, they are more than likely just structured with program partners. We want you to think back to when we first started community networks, and many of you invited to your interview and orientation meetings organizations such as municipal governments, law enforcement, higher education, technical colleges, nonprofits such as the United Way. We want you to go back, examine your community for any potential partners that can assist you with planning for improving access and improving quality, and include them as stakeholders in your governance structure. We're also asking for a plan to measure the need for affordable access in your community. So this particular component of the application asks for you to describe the current status and talk about how gaps in the community's current system will be addressed, and plans for a collaborative, systematic, year-round process to measure and track the need for capacity for service at each age level. So essentially, we're asking you to go beyond the twice-a-year child count, the coordinated funding request, and the coordinated enrollment activities. And we want you to know on an ongoing basis where there is demand, what communities within your community network, what locations, what age levels, so that you are better able to support families and better able to identify funding sources that are appropriate for those age levels, and be able to better drive a plan of access in your community. We also want a plan to identify and share resources to support quality and access. So in this component, you will address how you and your program partners will leverage existing funding and share resources to increase the number of infant to age 5 economically disadvantaged children served in high quality, inclusive settings. What does that mean? We've had conversations with you before around the best use of funding sources, and that means when certain programs are serving 3- and 4-year-olds, what is the best way to do that so that you serve the most 4-year-olds, the most 3-year-olds, and how can you serve more 2-year-olds, 1-year-olds, and infants? So this means you're going to show how you will take a close look at existing funding and better use it to serve more children, if at all possible. A plan for using future financial support to expand access and improve quality. So this will include a clear description of all current early childhood funding streams in the community, including funding streams that are present and can be used for early childhood, but currently are not. There are some communities in the state, for instance, where Title I funds are in that community and they can be used for early childhood, but they currently are not. So we are asking you in this particular component of the application to identify those sources. And so finally, budget And you will notice that the budget is built into each of these plans. We're asking for a clear and sustainable request with practical plans to use the funds to achieve results. So, again, let's talk about the application format so that we can get more detail about budgets. So applicants will address local governance, how they'll measure the need for access to quality care, their plan to financially support expanding access and improving quality, and their plan to leverage resources for the greatest impact. So in each of these components, you are asked through several guiding questions to describe the current status of each of these things in your community. So let's take local governance, for instance. What does local governance currently look like? Who participates? What % of your partners participate? How often do you meet? What are the type of decisions that you're making with your partners? What type of information do your agendas focus on? So we're asking you to look at that, and then we're asking you to describe the ideal state for this governance. So in other words, if you could improve that and you were really working together like a well-oiled machine, what would that look like? The next step is to describe the gaps between current status and the ideal state. The next step is actionable priorities. So what steps can you take to close the gap between what you're doing now and what you would like to do? What needs to change? How will you do that? So what are those steps? What are the resources needed for each step? And what are the costs associated with each resource? This becomes your budget for that particular component of the application. So a quick review of the application process and timeline. October 8th, applications are due to the department. October 8th through 12th, applications are evaluated by the department's early childhood team in consultation with key partners. October 15th through November 9th, feedback will be provided to all applicants. Applicants that are chosen to continue on in the selection process will receive assistance to begin putting in place a local collaborative governing structure for shared decision-making. The department and key partners provide guidance to pilot candidates as they work to improve and finalize their applications for full funding, which must include plans and a budget to improve access and quality. We'll provide guidance through in-person meetings, through webinars, and through teleconferences, all aimed toward revised final applications being submitted to the department by the end of the day on November 12th. Applicants that do not demonstrate understanding and capacity to conduct the work will not be recommended for expanded funding, but may continue to work to be admitted to the next pilot cohort. We anticipate that the state board will approve pilots at their December meeting. And then at the January meeting, the board will approve expanded seat allocations for pilots per the community's plan and 2019-2020 coordinated funding request. So thank you for your attention. Please submit any questions to me by September 10th.